because
We're about ready. It's 1:30. Should we kick off?
yeah, we can do. You do the little intro bit and then. Ooh.
Okay, everybody. Welcome to the afternoon session of the Gauge Your Guild's virtual show, spring show. Hope you're all having a good time. So this afternoon we have Antony from Poppy's Woodtech, and this afternoon he's going to demonstrate his amazing his Loco Building Box. Now, if I'd have known one of these existed in the past, I would have had one ages ago. So before we get started, can I just do a little bit of housekeeping? First of all, you've all joined this meeting and you're all muted when you come in. And I think Antony's happy for people just to unmute themselves to ask questions. But if you would prefer to just post any questions through the chat box, if you hover your cursor over the bottom of the screen, you'll see a chat function will appear there. If you want to just address your question to everybody, and either me or Gareth, who's my co-host this afternoon, will pick them up and fire the questions at Antony for you. And the other thing, please, if you could all remember that this is being recorded. It'll be uploaded onto the Guild's YouTube account after the show so that people can watch it in perpetuity, I suppose. So, without further ado,
Well, anyway,
it's over to you, Antony.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm just trying to extricate this little piece here. So, one of the things I thought would be a good thing to share with you during today's virtual show, can't do it live, is to demonstrate to you our Loco Builder Box. Now, this is one of the things that I built for me. I've been doing O-Gauge for a few years and built a few locos, but I was never ever so confident in what I was doing. There we are. Right. And I'd tried one or two different things to try and help me to get my building to be more consistent. And friends at the local O-Gauge groups had said, well, I don't really know whether I want to tackle locos or not. I'm happy with wagons, but that's as far as I want to go. But they really did want to try. And I thought, well, that's not very good. So I developed a little bit. One of the things that I'd started making myself. And then we had this wonderful laser technology came along, which makes things amazingly accurate and repeatable, and we can make matching things to help put things together properly. So I came up with this idea of a jig, a box, that's going to help you to set up your loco, set up your chassis before you introduce solder into the equation at all. You know, you can make sure that everything is working, everything's matched, everything's happy before you start soldering things together. And even soldering then can warp and twist things, so you can keep checking things as you go along, and discover which bits have caused you the problem. Now, the Loco Builder Box comes in sort of a basic size, which is the medium size, and that'll do any 4 and 6 couple loco, mainline loco. We've got a little table of axle spacing. It's the axle spacing that you really need to think about when you're buying one of these. But we do an 8 coupled one, so that's an 8 coupled one, and we do a 10 coupled one, which is that one there. And we can talk about all the different sort of variations and things like that. But there are two things really that are going to help you to decide is the axle diameter, and in 7mm it's almost inevitably going to be 3/16 inch. But we also do it in other scales for S scale and 4mm, 3mm, 10mm. And what we try and cater for is the standard axle size for those scales. So the principle is that we're going to hold the loco, or hold the parts of the kit, while we build the loco. Okay. And the prototype that I came up with for me to do an H-class Southern loco was this one. And as you can see, it's got a hole for each axle, and that's great. And it was. That's all right. That works. The problem with this is that you can set what the axle spacing is for this one, and you'll see that's a different height because it's for the bogies. Turned out not to be necessary for that one. But it doesn't matter how accurate your laser machine is, if the drawings aren't accurate to tell you the right information, and more importantly, the kit isn't accurate. Not saying that the inaccurate kit's around, but if the kit is 0.5 millimeter out, then the jig isn't going to work if the axles are fixed. Okay, so there was a eureka moment somewhere in there that said if you have one fixed axle, which in this case is the center one, then a slot for the other axles would allow you to have one box that will fit any loco for that axle configuration. So this medium box will fit any 4-coupled and 6-coupled mainline loco. Okay, and it's really easy to set up. What we would recommend that you do is to make your coupling rods first and make sure that they're a pair and they match. And what I've got here is I've got a set of coupling rods, one which is now attached to the axles, and in 7mm they're attached fairly rigorously with a couple of washers and a nut, and the bush that they fit on is the same size as the Slater's standard axle bush size, which I imagine for the hobby in 7mm is a sort of standard. You know, Slater's is by far the most popular wheel, and kit manufacturers must sort of recognize that and make their coupling rods to fit. So that's where we are. So we've got a box here with a 3/16 inch single hole for one fixed axle, and we've got 2 sliding slots, 3/16 inch again, but will allow you to, you know, set the axles in the right places for your kit. Now, this is not only for new kits. Okay, if you've got a problem kit, you can fix it. You can fix it. We had a customer came and gave us a hug at Telford 2, 3, 4 years ago. He got a loco that had been causing problems for a while, and he bought one of these from us, and he said in 1/4 hour it was fixed. He knew exactly what the problem was because he could see where all the parts were and where all the parts were not matching. This chassis we're looking at here in this example is a Ginty chassis. It's from a pocket money kit. So I think that was when Jim Harris and Jim at Connoisseur were collaborating a bit, I don't know, but anyway, it came in a pocket money kit box, and it wasn't very good. It wasn't very good, to be honest. So what I've done with this is I unsoldered it and cleaned everything up and started again. Okay, so that's the one I'm going to put back in the Loco box, so show you how it's set up. So we'll just switch to the close-up camera, and then we can have a closer look at what's going on. There we go. Right. Okay. Now, obviously this frame is already soldered now and a little bit advanced because I've got some castings and things on it. But if you were setting it up from scratch, as we are doing with the Hatchet Scotsman here, what you would do is you would make up the rods again. The rods are made up there, but in the kit you get a piece of silicon tubing as well, solder resistant, not solder proof. You know, you can melt it if you really try. And what I've done is I've cut some rings which I've put onto the axles to hold the bearings in place. Hopefully you can see that. And once we know that the bearings are, you know, there's a little bit of play there, so we know that the bearings can find their own place in the chassis. We know that the rods are a matching pair. We know that the rods are on and they're fixed, and the bearings are in the axle. So then we can start to put the braces in and build some other pieces up as well on here and solder it in together and do the bearings as well. So we should be confident that when we take it out of the box, it's going to be a rolling chassis that's going to be very free running, and not have any problems. Okay, and that's one that's a little bit further advanced. You can see the bearings on here are soldered in and so on. So how does that fit on here? Well, that would go, put the axles the right way round. There. A little bit tricky because they're all joined together at one end. There we go. So part the way through there, and which way do they go? That way around. I guess that's another thing, isn't it? If you start building it one way, then try and keep it that way. This one's easier to spot because it's unequal axle spacing, but if they're equal axle spacing, you know, there might be some little quirks you build in there. So make sure you keep all the places, all the pieces in the same orientation each time you do it. And then having got the back thing back in there, then we can put the coupling rod on and we can keep building onto the chassis. We can turn the chassis over ever so easily, and we can work on the frames, the frame springs and the brake gear and all those sorts of things. We can get to extra pieces. This was quite a help with this Loco, with the Ginty, because it's got some false imitation piston and stuff in the center there, which was quite tricky. If you were trying to do that without something to hold the chassis firmly for you, then that would be quite tricky to do. So we're using the jig to hold the chassis, working the chassis upside down as well, and carrying on from there. Now, what I've done as well in the past, and we include in that the instructions and so on, that I just use this for holding the Loco as I work. It's really easy to do. If you've struggled, like I have in the past, to get a flat foot plate with nice valances along the edge and square buffer beams and so on, this is going to help you, because having done the chassis like that, I can't show you on this one unfortunately, but it showed me that I did do it. What you can do is you can put the foot plate on here upside down, because the fixing spaces are the same. It's a flat bed, the same, but that's going to hold it for you while you put the valances on and the steps and the buffer beams and so on. And then when you've done the foot plate, you can put the foot plate on the right way up and still bolt it down and continue to build the Loco. So it's an extra pair of hands. And something dropped off. If you drop something, it goes into the box and not on the carpet. You don't have to go around with the magnifier and the torch trying to find things on the carpet when they've dropped off, because it's going to go in the box. The other thing that's worth saying at this point is, in the kit for the box, you get two little non-slip feet on there. That's the place I've always put them, and they're really useful, and it stops it moving around. I mean, of course you can move it around, but you're not going to move it around with a soldering iron when you're trying to fix something in place. So that's a sort of basic uses of that. We've got that bit on the Scotsman there like that. And I don't think it really matters whether it's a new kit or it's an old kit. I say we can certainly use it to rejuvenate old chassis, if you've got those that are causing you problems. This is a really ancient kit. This is a 4mm, but it illustrates the point. You know, this chassis is it's just two strips of brass. Yeah, I think this is a Jameson one, I think, if you know 4mm kits. 1950s probably. But what you see is I've done here, this is the foot plate being made up. Okay, it was the right way round when you joined, but I can put it on upside down and I can continue to work on the foot plate here. This one's actually got a step in it as well, which is a little bit tricky. So you can do that like that. So it doesn't matter whether it's a solid chassis, even a brass bar chassis like that, a compensated chassis. So this is a compensated chassis for a 9F, which has got a beam in the center there and a beam here. That's going to be a tricky one to finish off, but I'm quite confident I can do, because I've got the box to help me. And the other, having touched on that, the other people's comments and things I've seen is that, oh well, yeah, but I do a compensated chassis and I need this and this, and yeah, fine, okay. This V2 chassis I have here is compensated chassis done in the Loco box. Yeah, and if I just set up a little demo somewhere, I can make this really uneven, and you can see that all of the wheels go around all of the time. And maybe you can see in there that the axle stepping up and down as it goes. So it doesn't matter if you've got horn box and springs and that sort of thing. You know, you can do it in the jig. That's what it's made for. So this, in case you're interested, this is a Flexi Chasse arrangement. So we've got some beams between these two axles, but we've also got a beam that goes to the front pony. So the pony's carrying weight as well. That helps to pull the loco into curves, and the loco motor is held in a pod, not actually on the loco at the minute, but it has been running. Is on a pod in here, and that's sharing weight with the rear pony. Because it's sharing weight with the rear pony, then I can put pickups on there and know it's not just going to stop the wheels going round and skating along. Nice bit of engineering, that. And yeah, not what I set out to do, but the engineering challenge was quite amazing, really. Have we got any questions yet, Nick?
No, we don't seem to have any questions, but I could ask you a question if you want.
You certainly can.
One of the things that's sprung to my mind while I've been watching this demonstration is fitting, for a compensated chassis, you know, fitting horn blocks and horn guides into a chassis. And I could see there to be a very convenient, you know, kind of help in doing that. Is there a way by which that you can level the chassis within the box? Because one of the things that you do, that I often do when I'm building a chassis, is maybe have one fixed axle with just round top hat bearings in it, and usually that axle is the one that you might drive with the motor.
Yeah.
And then, as you said right at the beginning, you've already made the coupling rods. So what then you need to do is to set the axle centers to match the coupling rods. I mean, in some respects, it doesn't matter if the coupling rods aren't absolutely identical, because if you're building them up out of etchers, often there's very, very, very slight differences between the axle centers of both rods. But that doesn't matter, because you could use your Loco building box to hold the chassis and the rods and the axles level, while you then solder the axle boxes onto the chassis. And that way you know that the dimensions of the rods will match the dimensions of the axle boxes. But that's to do that, it'd be really helpful if you had a device within the box that would then hold the chassis level. I mean, you could do it with the chassis flipped upside down, so that the box could level the chassis using some of the body fixing points, that also to be level.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of really helpful addition to that. To be I mean, it's already a really useful tool anyway. But if you just had some way of holding the chassis level as well, that'd make it super.
I guess the problem is that each chassis you come across, even if it's from the same manufacturer, is going to have different places to support, isn't it?
Well, usually some manufacturers, when they're building kits, they put the frame stays where they would be prototypically on the locomotive, and some don't. For instance, Finney 7 kits, they have this kind of rocking beam suspension kind of system built into them. And so the frame stays are more orientated towards that rather than where they'd be on the real loco. And they also add an extra stay that's usually at the front and the back of the loco, which is a means by which you can screw the chassis to the body, to the foot plate. And I was, in my head while you were going through that demonstration, I was just trying to think of some kind of a device that you could add to the box that would, link up to those fixing points and help to hold the chassis level so that the axle boxes were level with the slots. And then you get.
It's a really good question. We should try and think of something. I think the reason while you were going through the logics there, I was trying to wonder how I didn't have the same problem with this. And of course, if you're doing that Flexi chassis thing, yes, I'm using beams, and yes, I'm using horn blocks of my own design in here, but what I'm actually doing at the end of the day is I'm bending the beam, I'm adjusting the beam to make the chassis level.
Right.
Because the weight is spread across all of the axles.
Yeah, I can see that.
Now, if you spring in, I guess that's not the same, is it? But whenever I've tried to spring a chassis, you might as well not put the springs in. It just sits on the blocks.
Yeah. I mean, typically in 7mm, we don't really use true compensation in the respect that the springs work both up and down. Typically, what we tend to do is have the axle box sat on a bump stop.
That's it, bump stop. That's the word I was looking for.
With a spring on it. So effectively, what the horn guide's doing is pushing the wheel down into the undulations, isn't it? Rather than suspending it in a true sense, as it would be on the real thing.
Yeah. I think it's a good question. I think if I was doing it, I would tend to try and organize sort of some wooden blocks in there. But how you would make it so it was ultimately adjustable and slip.
Yeah. I mean, it's already a fantastic tool. It was just, I was just thinking to myself, this is how I would modify it if I had one, which I think I might actually. I
think that's a compliment. Thanks, Nick.
That's okay. Can we just do a bit of housekeeping before anybody else asks a question? I mean, we've got quite a few people at your meeting now, and Antony's already said if you want to ask him a question, just unmute yourself and fire away, or if you prefer, if you hover with your cursor over the bottom of the screen, you'll see a chat function appears, and if you prefer me or Gareth, who's the co-host in this meeting, to ask questions, by all means type your questions into that. So if anybody's got any questions, fire away.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Hi, Carl. How are you?
Very well.
You got some audio today as well.
Please, what?
You have audio today as well. I can hear you.
I bought one. I bought on the mic, so I have connection now.
Good man. Good man. We do gauge one as well. So maybe I should say for anybody who has sort of cross interests. So we're doing 7mm today, of course, but we do the Loco box in 4mm and 3mm and in 10mm as well. So it just depends on your axle sizes. But we can do any axle size, but we can't always source the material for the blank axles.
Yeah, but I don't build 10mm engines.
Oh, okay.
No, I built ready to run in Germany. It's, I know no 10mm or 1-32 kits in Germany for locos or wagons. So I have to build. Have to build an English layout, but yes, I've already said from your layout. You understand? Yeah.
Well, interesting. The other your 4mm kit, your 4mm box would be very useful for narrow gauge modelers in 7mm because typically narrow gauge modelers use double O gauge wheels and axles, or certainly axle diameters that are consistent with 4mm scale. I suppose that'd be things like Romford, wouldn't it, and Alan Gibson axles. And I can see that your Loco Builder's box would be kind of perfect for
that would be this one then.
Oh, you've already got
that. Yeah.
He's a step ahead of me, Loco.
Well, I don't know.
Got range.
It reminds me, Nick, of a story at Kettering. Oh, we're at Kettering today, aren't we? Story at Kettering. Oh, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. Guy came up, he saw this and he was really enthusiastic, and he said, "Oh, I can exactly see how that would help me, and really good. It's a shame that you don't do one in 3mm. Like this, sir. Can I help you?"
3mm.
Yeah, yeah. They're a quiet bunch, but they're quite industrious.
TT, it's called, I think, isn't it? That is it. TT.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Maybe TT3. Yeah, yeah, TT3. I think 3mm. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I think 3mm is like our scale 7, and TT3 is like 12mm, like OO is to EM.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought TT
I think.
was TT. Wasn't TT? Isn't it? Doesn't it stand for tabletop or something?
Yes, absolutely.
Wasn't it Hornby or something?
Triang.
Arranged, didn't they, of
Yeah.
TT stuff that was quite short-lived, really.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting that you even cater for those guys. Wow. What axles do they use out of interest? Do they just use 4mm axles?
Yeah, 1/8 inch. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
and an S scale as well, Nick.
Right.
Scale is 1/8 inch axles. So
Been
we
very
put
little
a as you can see more clearly on that one, we put a different scale and a different ruler on the side,
right.
which is just for aesthetics, really, I think, and giving people confidence they're doing the right thing. But yeah,
I assume they recommend that people glue your box together as well. I mean, I know that's kind of stepping back a bit.
oh no, absolutely. Yeah, so I know you want to be quick, but we wouldn't recommend super glue. Don't use it. It's too quick. What you need to be able to do is to glue the box together with some PVA, something that's a wood glue and a known wood glue, slow setting. So you've glued your box together, and you're going to put the axles through, and let me do with this one. You can line it up, and you can check that they're all in line before the glue dries. And then go and have a cup of tea and come back, because it's a slow setting glue, and check it again. Because once it's set, it's going to serve you for a long time. You're going to build a lot of locos on this. Because Tony Wright must build a lot of locos. And he's still on his second one. Only second one because he gave the first one to somebody else.
All right. It didn't wear out then.
No. Yeah. So, I mean, the other, we're talking about measures on things. You should be able to see that one, I think, shouldn't you? You know, that's a 3.5mm one, but it's got a metric rule on the top and imperial on the bottom. So, you know, it's whatever the customer asks for.
3.5mm in what respect?
Yeah. Sorry?
3.5mm in what respect?
In the scale.
Oh, that's HO scale.
HO, yeah.
Bracket.
Yeah. So American or continental or
Right.
whatever, yeah. Half O even.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Half O even. Yeah. It's a shame we had to mess it all up and have OO.
I'll leave that question for another day. That sounds like a very long thread on the Guild Talk section of.
Yeah, I think it could be about a 40-year thread, I think. Yeah. Right. Enough of tangents. How are we doing for questions, people?
Anybody got any questions they'd like to ask?
On the chat. I actually have a question, Anthony. What is actually included in the kit? What actually makes up the kit?
Good question. So a kit looks like that, and you get the box, and you get a little spacer there as well, so you can put that in. If you're keeping the box in storage, it'll just make sure it doesn't move around.
Okay.
And you get, in the case of a medium size, which this one is, it's the one we were using with the Ginty, you get 3 witness axles and the fittings on the end as well for the to hold the coupling rods on, and a set of the on that one, a set of the non-slip feet. So it's all there. You just need a bit of glue,
Yep.
And some inspiration. Yeah. So we've got medium size, which is the one we're using on the Ginty. There's a larger size, which is the one we're using on the Scotsman, which is that one. And the only difference, the axle spacing is the same, because it'll do any 4 or 6 coupled mainline loco. Just the difference is that if you wanted to turn the Scotsman over when the body's on, if you tried to do it in a Ginty size box, it would foul on the ends. Yeah, but a bit of a scoop, but it would still be a bit too long. So that's why there's a large size. There's also an 8 couple size.
Yeah, you had one earlier on the bench, I think.
Sorry?
You had one earlier on the bench, I think.
Yeah, yeah. There's an 8 couple size, which actually I've been using to put together the chassis for the Hatchet Scotsman.
Right.
Yeah, because it's got four axles in it. And there's a 10 couple size as well, but those come with 4 axles and 5 axles. But it's the same principle. 3/16 axles on 7mm, and then 1/8 axles on the 4mm. Yeah.
Jolly good. Do you find that do you recommend that people open out the holes in their chassis very slightly to accept the top hat bushes, you know, so that you can account for any differences between the centers of the axles and the centers of the crank pins?
Yeah, I would do, Nick. It's part of the sort of general building thing anyway, I think, isn't it? Just make sure that everything's sits happy. And
I mean, if the centers coincide, then the chassis will run, won't it? There's nothing to stop the chassis running at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, if you read, you know, how to build a loco books and things, I think Ian Rice, you know, he spends time showing you how to correct coupling rods and chassis and stuff like that. By doing exactly that, you know, open up the hole, put the chassis, put the bearing in, and then let it find its center. Well, so it's fixed in the right place.
I mean, I've been sort of on the technical committee of the Gauge Guild now for quite a number of years, and we've done loco, you know, kind of modelers help desks for years, and I would say that kind of 80% of the people that bring a chassis to us, a loco chassis that's binding, have got that problem, you know, that the axle centers don't match the rod centers, and your device there would certainly help people to get them to coincide. And if they do, you know, there's no reason really why your chassis won't run perfectly freely first time round.
It's true.
And it's much more difficult to correct these things afterwards than it is to get them right in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I suppose it would, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I mean, you can't just go and open. I mean, typically what people do is they just open up the crank pin journals a little bit, you know, to give them a little bit more slop. And that kind of works to a first principle, but if you open it up too much, it just makes it much worse.
Yes.
You're trying to compensate for a different problem, really, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's surprising me. I mean, I don't know how other traders would describe things, but I think apart from us doing a lot more posting than we ever did do, because we're not selling stuff at shows, I suppose, you know, I think the pattern of our trade has changed as well, in as much as if you were at a show, or certainly at the beginning of first lockdown, you would have seen people buying, oh, okay, well, I know I'm going to be doing this, and I'll buy some bits to help me to do it when I get there. I think where we've got to at the moment with poppies anyway is that as far as the general kits are concerned, it seems to be a pattern for me that people are not doing that, but what they are doing is they're saying, right, okay, well, I've got to this stage of my project, I'm going to buy bits for this stage of the project, and the pattern of the orders, the content of the orders seems to reflect that. One thing that has been consistent, and I guess just reflects the fact that people are getting to that place in their outstanding kits cupboard, is that the sales of Loco boxes have been pretty consistent.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah. It's a great tool, and of course, if you're building a Loco, once the thing runs, you know, once you've got a running chassis, then the rest's just cosmetic, isn't it? After that, really,
it is really.
You're guaranteed something that runs, you know. Then you know, you've kind of got that impetus to keep going, haven't you, and build the body.
Yeah. And as I say, you know, I find the Loco box really helpful to do that.
Yeah, no. I mean, that was my first thing when I saw it on your website. Wow, that'd be really useful to help you center the, you know, get the rod centers and the chassis axle box centers to coincide. That was my first thought.
Yeah,
because it holds the rods level. You see, it holds the rods level in a straight line. And of course, in my mind, then if you can hold the chassis level to match, then you cannot fail but to set the axle boxes up properly, and then the Loco will run. Yeah.
And while you're talking about centering things, of course, the other thing that we do, which is a little bit of a compliment, but it just reflects the stage of build that I invented it at, I suppose, you know, the next useful thing is we do a little straight down the middle gauge.
Oh, I saw that on your website.
When you get when you get to doing your you know, your chimney and dome and stuff like that, we do a little gauge that you can put on here and line up with your cab, and just make sure that you get all your pieces in line.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Why didn't I know about that?
I couldn't possibly comment, Nick.
Why didn't I know about that? Do you know what? The table, our house is a really old house, and all the floor, none of the floors are level. Balls so unlevel that balls will roll in them, and my table's like that. If you put a Loco on the table slopes slightly, so it kind of knackers your perspective while you're looking at it, trying to work out whether the dome's, you know, sort of perpendicular to the foot plate and so on, and the chimney likewise. And something like that would just cure that problem immediately, didn't it? And it was the same with the box, and I thought, why didn't I have one of them, and why didn't I have a centering thing?
But they're not so badly priced. I mean, the medium box is £35, including the axles and all that sort of stuff. You know.
Are you offering a discount for people that buy today from the?
And this is, well, we have done in the past. Yeah, I mean, if people buy today, then if they're quote purrs for pussycats purring, you know, there's 5% discount. There is. So the Loco box is £35, and this little job here is £3.50.
£3.50 to make sure that your domes never lean to one side. Why wouldn't you buy that?
you know, we've all got friends who've built locos that they're really proud of, and you go, that chimney's not right. And you don't say it, do you?
No.
You just dare not say
No.
It's not polite.
it. So I didn't want anybody thinking that of me. So I just thought, how do you do it? How can you possibly make sure? So you've got on that side, you've got the lines to line it up with the cab, yeah, or spectacle plate, whatever it is. And on the other side, I think you can see there, can't you? You've got vertical lines that's going to tell you whether, because you could still get a dome inside that profile, that silhouette, but it's not lined up. Yeah.
If only it had changed the pattern of the shape of the base of the chimney, you know, because it doesn't compensate for a bad casting, does it?
Oh, I couldn't. No. I'm not going there. I'm not going there. No, I think, you know, you'll have heard me say it before. A lot of the things that we do, I've done for me first, and knowing that you've got the confidence that your work is as good as it can be, just helps you to enjoy the hobby.
Of course it does.
And, you know, I bought one of Jim. Oh, what's his name?
Jim Harris.
Jim McGowan.
McGowan.
Yeah. I
Honestly.
bought one of his vans. I was persuaded that I needed to start doing some soldering, so I bought one of his vans, and I really enjoyed it. And when I look back at it now, I can see that, oh yeah, that was a beginner's job, wasn't it? But I really enjoyed it, and it went together well. And you know, as you hear that Jim's stuff does. But the next kit that I bought was something I thought, oh wow, okay, well we'll try one of these then, and it was a nightmare. You knew in the second paragraph of the instructions that you're going to have problems, because it said, yeah, this bit ain't right, you're going to have to put some extra pieces in here. And I'm going, what are you talking about? You know, for 50 years, I'd done plastic kits, Airfix stuff. You know, you take it out of the bag, you throw it together, and it works.
Yeah.
Now you've got to invent things. Didn't think I was a scratch builder already. But anyway, so this is, you know, again, this is one of the things that I just want to help to give modelers confidence that they're doing the right thing, and they're going to enjoy making locos, you know.
Yeah.
Come on. I thought, do you know what? I thought I'd said to you, Nick, didn't I? This is going to be the most question-filled session.
Well, should we just remind everybody then that if anybody wants to ask a question, please just unmute yourself and chip in. Or if you prefer to type your question in the box below, then myself or Gareth will pick up on that and pass it on to Anthony. Questions, anyone?
Hello, it's Stuart Bell here.
Stuart?
Sure.
Would you be able to tell us a bit about your coach kits if nobody has any more questions about the Loco building boxes?
Of course I can. I'll talk about anything.
Thank you.
What would you like to know?
Well, particularly how you do the mouldings on the side, and whether you manage to get the bolections and the windows with the laser cutting.
You mean the beading around here?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I got one here. Let me have a look. So basically, what it is I haven't got any part built ones. Sorry. Oh, I have a horse box here. Horse boxes can do, can't they?
Yeah.
So what you're basically going to do is you're going to build up the carcass of the coach. So you've got the basic carcass there. Does that help? Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
You've got the basic carcass that you're going to build up, and then you've got a fret on the side, which looks like that. Shall we switch to the to the other camera. There we go.
That's better.
So you've got a fret like that. Try to get it so it doesn't glare in the light.
Yeah, no, that's
Is
good.
that better?
That's good.
That's actually better now, isn't it? So you've got a fret like this, which has got the beading in and stuff like that. And then that glues over the top. It's as simple as that.
How thick is that fret then? Because that must be quite delicate, isn't it?
It's 0.8 millimeter. Okay. So that's what we do. That's what we do on the standard 7mm coaches is 0.8 millimeter. Other thicknesses are available.
How do you mean?
He said. So on the 4mm coaches we do. That one? No, it's the same. Okay, yeah, not a very good example, but on the 4mm coach, it's exactly the same principle, exactly the same drawing, but that's 0.4mm plywood.
Right.
Okay, so that's 3 thicknesses of wood and 2 thicknesses of glue, 0.4 millimeters.
I'm just trying to think that on the real thing, it would be less than an inch, wouldn't it? Deep.
Depends what you measure.
That beading.
It's a common thing people wonder about. If you go and look at preserved coaches, now you could say, well, it's not the original molding, could do, but some of the ones that I've measured are an inch.
Right.
So 0.8 is about spot on. You know, other modelers have said to me, well, it's far too thick, far too thick. Well, we can do that in that thickness.
Could you?
It just adds to the price.
Yeah.
Because if you think about the manufacturing process of, I don't know whether you know much about wood or not, but if you think about the manufacturing process of making a 0.8 millimeter plywood, you've still got to do it. It's just the tolerances. You know, you need 3 veneers that are sufficiently thin to be able to be sanded down to 0.4 millimeter in a factory environment. So the price of this material, 0.4 millimeter, is about 3.5 times the price of the 0.8 millimeter for the same area.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So making the 7mm one in the 4mm material is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. That bead there would probably be 12, 15 times the price of the material. The machine time's no different because the machine time is doing the same cuts.
And presumably you can sand it down anyway, can you?
You can sand it down anyway.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
You can. Absolutely. And you can do that with whatever you choose to use. I mean, I would say use something 120 or finer grade, and use a block, and you can sand it down to whatever you want to sand it down to. You're going to hit a, when you on the 0.8 millimeter, when you get down to 0.55, I suppose, somewhere around there, you're going to start hitting a glue line. But you know.
And do you do separate pieces for the collection mouldings around the windows, or is it just the one fret that overlays it?
It's just one piece.
Right.
It's just one piece. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't come across very well on there, but it's just one piece.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We've got a question here, Anthony, from David M.
Yeah.
So if David wants to unmute himself and fire away.
Yeah.
Are you there, David?
Yeah, hello, folks. Sorry.
Hi.
Hang on a minute.
It's only technology, David.
Yes, I know. We learn to deal with it, don't we?
Big
I
hammer.
was just going to ask. I'm quite interested on your coaches, the 6-wheel versions. I believe you do in 7mm.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, you use a Clemenson arrangement etch.
Yes.
What sort of side play, or what would be the minimum radius you could use that on?
Oh, minimum radius. That's a good question. There's more side play than you would need.
Well, that's very reassuring. Would he go around? Would he go around the 4 foot?
Yeah, just give me a second. Hang on a minute. Somewhere in here. Oh. What's that? Yeah. Just try to keep organised so I can go back to things if people ask me to later on. Oh, it's there.
Can I ask David while you're digging around, what's the Clemenson arrangement?
It's where the centre axle swivels or is able to slide from side to side, and they can negotiate smaller curves.
All right, and it's like that on the real thing, is it?
Oh yes.
All right, that's interesting.
Ooh, right. Okay. Wow. I'll go with it. Right. Good. Super. Okay. So that's a sort of an unassembled, unsoldered version there, David.
Right.
And you can see.
Oh, I can see with the movement you have.
There's quite a lot of movement there.
Yes. That would only be restricted by the underframes or.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
So on the Highland coach, which is a narrower underframe than the Northeastern or the horse box, we do an 1/8. No, sorry, we do a 1.5 frame for that instead of a 3mm, which gives that extra bit of movement. But this is a soldered up one with the wire in between, and you can see there's quite a
Yes.
quite a lot of movement.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember whether it was in the Gazette or whether it was in the Hornby Collectors magazine. There was a guy bought a horse box and a coach from us that did a like a First World War ambulance train arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure he was running that on 3 foot radius.
3 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very sharp, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, whether he had to deviate from using this or not, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember.
Right. Well, that's very helpful. Thank you very much indeed.
You can see it sort of moves. Okay, so let's have a look. Here we go. Right, okay, 0. Let's have a look. Let's try it that way to that way then. So if I move, everybody else can be thinking of questions. crikey. Really? Wow. I would say there's about 6.5 millimeters of travel on that center axle, David.
Oh, I should imagine that's that would be fine for
Maybe
most of our layers. Yep.
Yeah. I think the only. Yeah. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes, that's lovely.
I
Thanks very
was
much
just trying to
indeed.
think if I've got any set track things, but I don't think I have.
I'm not sure if it would go around a set track, but we could certainly try it.
No, I meant like a point or something like that, because points.
Oh, I see. Right.
We know what the radius of a point is, don't we? But
Yes.
I don't think I just put my hand on one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, not to worry, but yeah, that's fine.
You can see by that.
Yes.
You know, that's
Mm-hmm.
quite a curve on there, isn't it?
Oh, it is indeed. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Thanks very much. All I need now are the coaches to fit it to.
Does anybody else have any questions then to ask Anthony this afternoon at this meeting? Because it's now 2:30 when the meeting's scheduled to end, and if no one's got any further questions, perhaps
Yes.
we wrap up. Oh, here we go. Somebody.
Yeah.
Keep going as long as you want.
Okay, I've never built any of your kits before, so sees you've got the Loco Builder's jig. Have you got a jig or something like that for making sure that on your carriages, wagons, etc., everything is square?
In what sense, Richard?
Corners, everything is square? Or have you got lugs in everything so as to make sure that it can only be square?
Oh, on our kits.
Yeah, on your kits.
Anything that needs to be square can only go together square. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sort of hesitating about that, but yeah, like for example, the ballast box we do, yeah, you're going to struggle to get that out of square. You
Right.
know, all of those slots and tabs and things are going to make sure it goes together. The coal platform, we're going to look at that a bit later on as well. I mean, that is slot and tab as well. You know, come on, you battery. The canopy frame is slot and tab again.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I modeled the LBSCR, so I'm very interested in your horse box kits.
Right.
Is it possible to get them so everything is square? Chassis and body together, etc.
That's a $64,000 question, isn't it? I would like to say yes. Yeah, I would like to say yes, definitely. Let me see if I can give you a comparison. Where's that gone? Ah. So the first kits that I made up, because I make. What about you? When you guys, when you go around shows and stuff, but I like for people to look me in the eye and know that the kits are right. It's the same question you're asking me, Richard. I can look you in the eye and say, I've built every one of these. I know how it goes together. And if you want to ask, you can ask. Now, if you look at this was a basic set of parts, yeah, for the horse box. Mm-hmm. And you'll see underneath, it's a straight slab. Yeah. So that was prototype. That was prototype. Oops. This next one I'm going to show you is what I would call productionized. Okay. And it's more or less the same thing, but it's got slot and tab in the base.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's got sort of a behind here. You can't see it, but I can see it on the inside. There's a slot and tab down the side there for this compartment. When you laminate up the different pieces at the corners, they sort of form a joint like that. So this piece goes in, this piece goes over that piece, goes over that piece. It's pretty difficult to get it wrong, I would have said. And the roof is the same. The roof frame is slot and tab. Every kit you get every order we send a frame for Loco as well. So you know that's going to match. Is going to match that.
Yeah.
And it's very easy for me to say, well, okay, you know, I can do it. I've done loads, which is different to your experience. I know that, but not last year. Year before, when we went to Telford, I made 4 of these in one afternoon. And they all went together like that. That'll be one of them. Yeah. So the roof fits. And fingers crossed, it fits that way as well.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
You can't get much more mistake proof, I don't think.
Okay. I shall look forward to ordering one.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else with anything else? Jolly good.
But
Right.
don't forget, if you think of any questions, we've got another session later on.
We have. I was just about to
What I've done is, somebody said to me, do some kit bashing. Well, it's all kit bashing really, I don't know. So I've got some photographs and we're going to try to replicate the photographs with our kits or parts of our kits. And don't forget, we're going to try and put a felt roof on our new goods shed. So we made that up this morning in this morning's session, and we're going to try and put a felt roof on there.
Right, and I think
later.
I think that meeting starts at. I'm just checking my schedule. Starts at 3:30. So if anybody wants to come along and see Antony finish off his engine shed. Was it an engine shed?
No, it's
a
good
shed.
Finish off his goods shed.
A little good shed.
Do one little thing then. Please come along at 3:30 and watch. And thank you all very much for coming along to this meeting. I hope you've enjoyed it. There's plenty more things going on online. So I think we'll close this for now. And thank you very much for your presentation, Antony. And we'll see everyone.
You're welcome. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you.
Bye now.
Right.
Good to see you.
Very good.
Bye.
Very good.
And everybody else I know that I can't see.